Hello everyone, my name is Sean, and today I am delivering an informative speech on HIV, which stands for Human Immunodeficiency Virus. Did you know that this virus is believed to have crossed species from chimpanzees to humans? HIV is also believed to have originated in the Democratic Republic of Congo around 1920. Since the early transmission of HIV did not show any signs or symptoms, it remained unnoticed until 1981, when a group of healthy gay men in Los Angeles were diagnosed with a rare type of pneumonia. As a result, it was initially termed as a gay-related immunodeficiency disease, also known as GRID. It was later, January 1983, when the virus was detected in female partners of men having this infection, and it was thus concluded that it could also be transmitted via heterosexual sex. Working as a CNA for years now, I often look after patients diagnosed with HIV. It gives me an opportunity to get first-hand information about different infections and diseases from doctors and experts. That's why I thought of sharing some information about HIV in my speech today. So, what is HIV? It is a retrovirus that attacks cells on the immune system, leading to a loss of immune function and often the development of acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, also known as AIDS. There are lots of myths and stigmas surrounding HIV, and I aim to acknowledge my audience with critical information about the subject as a way of social awareness and intentive to stop the transmission of this infection. So, how is HIV transmitted? HIV can only be transmitted by coming in direct contact with certain bodily fluids from a person with detectable viral load. The four mediums: semen, vaginal fluids, breast milk, and blood transfusions. For HIV transmission to occur, these bodily fluids must get into the bloodstream of an HIV negative person through a mucous membrane, direct injection, or through open cuts or sores. HIV is generally transmitted through sexual activity as the lining of the vagina or the rectum is thin and can be cut through even with very little friction. HIV can also be transmitted through oral sex if there are any open cuts or sores presented in the mouth or sexual organs. One of the ways of transmission is through blood transfusion, blood products, organ tissue transplants, but risk posed through blood transfusion is very small these days because rigorous testing of blood, donated organs, and tissues. What are some myths related to HIV? There are numerous myths related to HIV that need to be addressed so that the stigma surrounding the topic can be eliminated in our society, and people who are diagnosed with HIV can be treated without discrimination. Some of the common myths are HIV leads to death, which is not true anymore, as the medical community continuously develops new medications for HIV, which considerably reduces the HIV viral load in an HIV positive person, also making the patient undetectable, which means the patient poses very little to no risk of transmission. One of the myths related to HIV is that only gay men contract HIV, which is not true, as women are also infected by HIV. Hypothesizing that heterosexual sex can also transmit HIV. The reason HIV is more common in gay men as opposed to heterosexual individuals, as the lining of the rectum is thinner than the vagina, and since the rectum does not produce any lubrication of its own, the risk of breaking of the mucous membrane is considerably high, hence it is prominent in gay men. Some other myths include HIV being spread through air, water, mosquitoes, ticks, saliva, shaking hands, hugging, sharing toilets, dishes, etc. But the bottom line is HIV cannot be transmitted through healthy, unbroken skin. Can we bring awareness to HIV? As we are familiar with all the myths and lack of information associated with HIV, it is very important to create awareness within ourselves and our society. We must educate ourselves so that we can prevent getting infected with HIV and can stop the spread of this epidemic. Awareness and education may also help eliminate the stigma surrounding HIV and AIDS, which would make our society more tolerant and not discriminatory towards people who suffer from HIV infections. In conclusion, HIV is a retrovirus that attacks cells in the immune system, leading to loss of immunity function and often the development of acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, also known as AIDS. Education on HIV transmission is very important in order to avoid spread of this epidemic, and awareness is needed that tolerance and acceptance for people infected with HIV is encouraged would help in creating peaceful and healthy communities. I hope that this information I presented to you today will help you understand that HIV is still around, but it's not a death sentence anymore. Thank you for listening.